A Not-So-Sweet Sweet Potato Story by Danny Vatsis.
Once upon a time in the Old West lived a lady named Sadie O'Grady. She lived with her husband, a sweetie named Petey, in a one-room house smack in the middle of what is now known as Arizona. Petey was a gold miner and he spent his days out in the wilderness swinging a pickaxe and digging with his shovel. He liked to take only the really huge gold nuggets, and when he found all the big nuggets, he would move on to a different part of the desert. He left behind big piles of rocks and dirt. These piles were later named the Superstition Mountains.
Every day, Sadie would cook dinner for her sweetie, Petey. Petey was always really hungry when he came home from a hard day of mining and making piles of rocks. One day, Sadie decided to try a recipe that was her grandmother's favorite dessert, sweet potato pie. After Petey was finished with his dinner, Sadie brought him a piece of pie and told him that it was a special treat. He tasted the pie and told her that it was the best dessert he had ever had. He even said that he wished he had a pie as big as the pile of rocks he was making in the desert. So Sadie had an idea. She hitched Petey's mule, Speedy, up to the plow and got to work. A lot of people don't know this, but the valley in Arizona where the city of Phoenix now sits used to be a big grassy plain. Sadie plowed all the grass in the valley under and planted the whole thing with sweet potatoes. It took a whole year to plow that big valley, maybe longer. When the sweet potatoes were ripe, she pulled them out of the ground and piled them into a humongous mound that reached all the way to the clouds. She got wagon loads and wagon loads of cinnamon, nutmeg, brown sugar, and flour. Then she started peeling. It took 2 whole years to peel that big pile of sweet potatoes, maybe longer. Sadie mashed up all of the sweet potatoes and added all the ingredients. Then she realized that she didn't have a pie pan big enough to hold it all. So she filled up the entire valley that she plowed under to grow the sweet potatoes and used that big valley as a pie pan instead. To bake the pie, she used the heat from the hot Arizona sun. It took 3 whole years to bake that big pie, maybe longer. Finally, the day came when the pie was done, and Sadie O'Grady brought her sweetie, Petey, and his mule, Speedy, to see the humongous sweet potato pie. Petey dropped his pickaxe and stood for a long time just staring at the big dessert. He didn't say anything for a whole minute, maybe longer. Finally, he said, "Sadie, this is an awful sweet thing for you to do for me, but I have to tell you something. I never really liked your sweet potato pie. I just said I liked it because it seems so special to you, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings." Sadie was so mad that she just turned and stomped away. She wouldn't even speak to Petey for a whole week, maybe longer. So that big pie just sat there in the middle of the desert, and every time Sadie saw it, she would just get madder and madder. So Petey decided he better get rid of the pie so that Sadie wouldn't keep on getting angry. Petey filled his wagon with all the dynamite from his gold mine and put it under the big sweet potato pie. He lit the fuse and plugged his ears. It was many years before anything would grow in that big valley. It has been mostly dust and scrub and brush and cactus ever since Sadie plowed it under and Petey blew it up. As for the pie, it landed in big red-orange piles over 100 miles away. The piles got hard as rocks in the hot Arizona sun. Nowadays, these piles are called the Red Rocks of Sedona. If you're ever in the city of Phoenix, Arizona, you should be sure to take a drive north to the town of Sedona to have a look at the big piles of Sadie's sweet potato pie. It should only take a couple hours to get there, maybe longer.